Hi, everyone. We're just gonna give a couple minutes for people to join. So while we're waiting, if you could maybe put your name and where you're from in the chat, that way we can see who else is here. All right. Hello, everyone. We are going to get started. Um, while you're rolling in, if you're still just joining, please put your name and where you're from in the chat so we can all see who's here. So thanks so much. So good afternoon. Thanks so much for joining our webinar in the Building the New Forest Future series. I'm Amy Scott, Program Manager for the Northern Forest Center based in Bethel, Maine. Today's topic is Building Aspirations for Youth in Rural Maine, how extended learning opportunity programs connect youth to meaningful career paths. I'd like to take a moment to thank my colleague Isabella Ronson Amrine, who's in the background taking care of our tech today. So thanks, Isabella. Today's session is being recorded, and all the links and resources and the recording will be shared following the webinar. Before I introduce our panelists, I just want to share a little context for this topic. The Northern Forest Center holds 2 grants from the U.S. Department of Labor's Workforce Opportunities for Rural Communities program, or the WORK program. The grant funds support ELO programs and those programs and schools' connections to businesses and community partners. The center is really thrilled to play a role in the success of these programs that are definitely raising aspirations among youth in rural Maine. So our panelists include the ELO coordinators from one of the participating schools in our Western Maine group, and then 3 of our participating schools in the Moosehead and Katahdin area. There are 2 additional grant partners who play pivotal roles in these ELO programs are rounding our panel. So we're going to start with opening remarks from each of our 6 panelists, and then we're going to dive right into a panel discussion, and then we will spend time responding to your questions. So you are welcome and encouraged to post questions at any time. We just ask that you please put them in the Q&A rather than into the regular chat window. It helps us manage and keep track of those throughout the webinar. So again, if you're just joining, please put your name and where you're from in the chat. And also feel free to use the chat to share any resources throughout the webinar if you have any to share. So with that, I will introduce our panel. So we are going to start with Korah Soll, who is the co-founder and executive director of Rural Aspirations Project. She is based in Belfast, but works throughout rural Maine with many schools and community partners. We'll then hear from Carrie Lynch, who is the ELO coordinator at Telstar High School in Bethel, where I am. And we will move on to Kelly Edmunds-Francis, who is the ELO coordinator at Katahdin High School, way up in Stacyville, north of Millinocket. Then we will hear from Margo Stevens, who is the ELO coordinator at Stearns High School in Millinocket, and from Andy Shaw, who is the ELO coordinator at Greenville Consolidated School in Greenville. And finally, we will hear from Deb Rountree, who is the Executive Director of Rural Development Initiatives and based out of the Katahdin Higher Ed Center in East Millinocket. So with that, we will move to Korah, who will be our first presenter.
Hello, everyone. I was watching the chat come in. Lots of familiar names there. So good to see everyone. I'll try to add a little additional information for those of you who have heard about this work before. So I am the executive director of Rural Aspirations Project, a small nonprofit organization that supports exclusively rural schools all throughout the state of Maine. We have three primary things that we do. One of them is called responsive professional development, which is a connection with a school to develop out a professional development strategy. And sometimes that's developing visions with schools. Sometimes it's working on curriculum development. It can be developing a program. So we try to keep that as responsive as possible so that schools have access to high quality professional development in rural places that is connected directly to the challenges that they're facing in their schools. The second part of our program or our organization is called collaborative projects. And so we started the Eastern Maine Skippers program early in the 2000s. And then since then have started the Maine Forest Collaborative and then the Washington County Youth Leadership Challenge. And these programs are in response to recognizing that youth are graduating from high schools and not really understanding how to dig in and solve a problem or to activate their critical thinking skills, and also are not really sure how to engage as members of their communities in leadership roles. So in those programs, students identify challenges in their communities, and then they work through a design process to develop actionable solutions for their communities, working with adults who are also working on those challenges. The third part of our project, our program or organization is we call it networked learning. And so we believe that schools can't operate in isolation. They need to be in the context of their communities. And so we participate in community and economic development conversations to make sure that students have an opportunity to recognize and see the things that are available for them in their communities. Extended learning opportunity programming, there was a grant that came down through the Department of Community and Economic Development in 2021. The Department of Education offered 26 grants for schools to start extended learning opportunity programming. And we had some partner schools who were a part of or successful in writing those initial grants. And so we got to work in those individual schools, developing out the systems and the structures that support students having actual experiences, job-placed experiences in their communities around their aspirations and their interests, both as an opportunity to try something that they really feel that they are drawn to, and also an opportunity to try things and realize that that's actually not the thing that they were looking for, and they'd like to think about a different career. So extended learning opportunities are internships. Many folks have known ELOs as a work study or a work release program. Those are often already happening in schools, but the structure, the academic structure and the accountability structure, the reflection structure, it has not necessarily been established in those schools. So the ELO process provides that structure so that students can both get paid for the work that they're doing in the community and also receive academic credit if it reaches that bar. So internships are different from paid meaningful work in that students often have a small project that they're working on, as well as getting paid to explore what it's like to work in a business or an organization, an institution. Independent studies are opportunities for students to build out an academic course based on their interest areas. And then on the next slide, we can talk about the other opportunities, which are job shadows. So job shadows are 1 to 5 day immersion experiences where students have a quick touch point into a career or an opportunity to see whether that's something that they're interested in. Job shadows often will lead to career placements, paid meaningful work, or internships. Group ELOs are opportunities where we can get a group of students who are interested in a particular career. We bring students to the University of Maine for engineering summits, as well as University of Maine at Augusta for medical boot camps. So those give students in groups an opportunity to really get a feel for the different variety of careers that are within a sector. And then lastly is thematic coursework or pathways. And this is where schools are investing in a particular pathway, like a Deer Isle Stonington High School. They had a marine studies pathway where that matches directly with the community and the economic or the heritage of that community. And the high school responds by providing coursework for a particular group of students that tends to be more interesting to them than traditional courses. Okay. So after we got the initial grants, and Carrie Lynch, you'll hear from Telstar, was one of the initial awardees for the first round of the Department of Education ELO grants. And what we realized was that it was working. So it was changing the narrative of the way that students were approaching school and also approaching post-secondary. So they had this new idea in their minds that they could try things. And so the ELO coordinator was becoming a very popular person in the school, with lots of kids coming and saying, well, I want to do this. Can you help me match that in the community? And so as we were thinking about the success of that program at Telstar, the opportunity to apply for the Workforce Opportunities in Rural Communities grant came up. And so we partnered with the Northern Forest Center. We had already been working in the Maine West region in a collaboration of organizations called Maine West, which was looking at the future vitality of their communities. And so we invited 5 districts to participate as partners in this grant: Buckfield High School, Telstar, Oxford Hills Comprehensive High School, Mountain Valley, and Dirigo. And the concept of this grant was really to get a broad survey of the Western Maine area, all of the economic opportunities that were there, and to make sure that we had connections between those economic opportunities and the ELO coordinators that were working directly with students. So we hosted what we called workforce summits, where we brought folks together from various sectors. You can see those listed on the left of the slide. And we asked them, like, what are the opportunities that are available in your sector? What are the specific set of skills and knowledge that students need or that you are seeing as absent in recent employees who have graduated from area schools? And then what do you need in order to build out opportunities for students to have connections in the community? Those workforce summits were very successful in helping us understand the landscape and also in making sure that there were those connections with the ELO coordinators. So a year into that grant, we were having great success with that program. The primary partners for that were Community Concepts Finance Corporation, where we had a business liaison that was connecting with those businesses, as well as Rural Aspirations doing some work as the school workforce liaison and management of the grant through the Northern Forest Center. So in addition to the extended learning opportunity work, we also felt that we really needed to support the entire system of the school. So making sure that the language around post-secondary aspirations and around opportunity was a conversation that students were hearing, not just from their ELO coordinator, but from all folks that were working in a school. So we have developed out advisory programs, school-wide advisory programs. We've worked on specialized curriculum, just offering general support for the school in addition to the extended learning opportunity coordinators. And again, this work was really successful in spreading the opportunities across the region. The ELO coordinators in that region were really valuing the opportunity to meet regularly and to talk about the opportunities. And so we decided to write the next iteration of the WARC grant, which was a WARC 7 in the Moosehead and Katahdin region. Rural Aspirations and Northern Forest Center had relationships in that region already, and so it made sense to think about moving in that direction for the second iteration of the WARC grant. The way this one was a little bit different in that we brought Katahdin Higher Education Center on as a post-secondary partner, which was the first time that we had done that, so that we could make sure that we had connection with the opportunity to offer post-secondary credentials or even credentials for students that are still in school. And then this pathway or this grant also supported the development of 2 different pathways within the natural resource sector that's so very important to the heritage of that region. So we offered we're actually working on this right now, a forest products K through 16 pathway, as well as an outdoor recreation K through 16 pathway. So what are the ways that we can expose students in elementary, middle, and high school to the amazing opportunities that are available in their region, and how do those opportunities scale up as the students go through school and into that post-secondary placement? Right, so I think I described that one a little bit. If you want to, I think we have one more slide. Is that right? Right. So, and again, this regional model seems to be working very well because the businesses that are in a region are very connected with each other. And, each of the sectors, when we think about the larger state, are represented in a smaller way in each of those regions. But the partnerships and the relationships are so very important. And so we are working on those with the WARC regions, and then the Department of Education put down another ELO grant. And so we went after that grant for the Washington County region. And so we're working with these partners in the Washington County region to really start to develop out the framework of this work. And then we're looking for additional funding to be able to support this work in the long term. So what we have found, and I'm really excited to have the other ELO coordinators here to talk with you about what this work looks like on the ground. And so I will turn it over to them and be available for questions.
Thank you so much, Korah. What an excellent overview. Really appreciate that. So next, we are going to hear from Carrie Lynch, who is in Telstar High School in Bethel.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I hope everyone can hear me okay. My name is Carrie Lynch. I work at Telstar Regional Middle School and High School. I am in my 8th year here and I think it's 27 years in public and private education in the Western Maine area. And I just want to thank Korah for that amazing kind of introduction to all of this, because I think it is sometimes hard to summarize all of the work that we do. My role here at Telstar, I am the Extended Learning Opportunities Coordinator, but I'm also an academic and post-secondary planning advisor. And we started this work way back in 2018, prior to the ELO grants coming online. We are in a somewhat unique position that we are in rural Maine. We have an exceptionally seasonal economy with Sunday River and a lot of the outdoor tourism recreation activities that you can find in Bethel and in our region. And Bethel is also home to a private boarding school. And so our families in the community really do have the choice of whether or not they want to send their students on to public education or can kind of select what pathway their students choose. When I came to Telstar, I was struck by having come out of private school, where we were guaranteeing that every student have a plan for after high school, where there was some conversation around post-secondary planning, but the dots connecting that for individual students just didn't exist. And so with the help of Rural Aspirations, we developed a comprehensive 6 through 12 aspirations and post-secondary planning program. And after several years, I'm really proud to say that 93% over 100% of our students now have articulated plans for after high school. And so we looked at that work and said, okay, we can change the conversation for students. We can get them thinking about the long term and be excited about how to connect with their communities, which is why that first round of DOE grants, I think, really worked for us. I think we saw a lot of success with that first round because we had laid a really strong foundation in saying every staff person and every student is going to have exposure to a curriculum that we developed 6 through 12. We really wanted to start the conversation early and find opportunities to connect our students with the community in the middle school. We have a great opportunity to do that because we are in the same complex, and that just felt right for us. We are a small school. We have 170 students in grades 9 through 12. And after 2 rounds of DOE grants or 2 rounds of DOE grants and a Department of Labor grant, we now have approximately 22 to 25 students per year in our Extended Learning Opportunities program. And we offer all of the opportunities that Korah described, from internships to also new this year, pre-apprenticeships in heating and plumbing, and some of the trades, along with those job shadows and group opportunities. I am really excited about where this is going. We see our students really connecting with the idea of earning credentials before they graduate, and are really thinking about whether it's sophomore or junior year, how to connect their classwork with future plans and goals and aspirations that they have, to those seniors knowing that we have some really great resources to connect them with, whether that be 4-year colleges, 2-year colleges, trade schools, or workforce development opportunities. So I'm excited to be here, happy to answer questions as we move through the program, and then we'll also have some materials available for anyone who would like more documentation to look at afterwards.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Carrie. So next we're going to hear from Kelly Edmunds-Francis up in Katahdin.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everyone. I am Kelly Edmunds-Francis. I am from Katahdin, a small area up in Stacyville, Maine. Our school we've got 2 different schools. We are 6 through 12 on the side that I work on, but I actually serve grades 9 through 12 within this program. When we do activities that come to school, whether it's speakers and whatnot, we do include the middle school so they can have some of that experience with kind of getting an introduction into different jobs. So we do try to incorporate them as much as we can also. I started this in April of 2025. Before this, I was just in Ed Tech 3. And then I say just, it's a big role. Ed Tech 3 and also the Apex coordinator. This year I've got ELO, Dean of Students, and Apex coordinator a little bit also. But ELO is my main focus. I have nine current ELOs that I am working with. Some of them are getting ready to graduate. And then I have tons others that I speak to daily, trying to get them ready for what they would like to do and going on these different experiences so they can figure out what their pathway is. This has provided them plenty of opportunities so they can kind of change shifts if they're not really sure if the path they're going on is the right one. So it's been a great experience for lots of them. Some of the ELOs that I have they range everywhere. I've got auto mechanics. I've got independent ones that are doing business, esthetician. One was just figuring out her pathway and she's forensics. And then I've got one that's what started in paving, went to painting, and now he's back to paving. So it's literally everywhere. But our graduating class this year, which majority of them are the ELOs, they all have a goal of what they want to do when they graduate. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Great, Kelly. Thank you so much. Next, we are going to hear from Margo Stevens, who is in Millinocket.
Hello, everyone. I'm Margo Stevens. Like Amy said, up here in Millinocket at Stearns Junior Senior High School. And you see a few pictures of our students taking part in some group ELOs this year, which they have fully enjoyed. Very excited to be a part of this program. I came on this November in a halftime capacity and was lucky enough to have Chelsea Arrett, who I knew was on the call today, to teach me all the ways of ELO, and she really laid quite a wonderful foundation for the work that's happening here at Stearns. So this really got off the ground in January of 2025 here at Stearns. And I have seen huge growth this year and lots of interest from students. So that's so exciting. I taught middle school here for 17 years, mostly science and math and outdoor education. And so a lot of the students that I'm working with now, almost all of them, I had as middle school students, some of them as young as 6th grade. So it's really special to see them blossoming in their high school years and looking forward to their careers and life goals. That's very, very special. So we are a junior senior high school. We have 222 students total, and with 134 in grades 9 through 12. 9 through 12 is my primary focus, but some of our group experiences have been able to include middle school students as well. So that's been really great. And here at Millinocket, outdoor recreation is a huge focus for our area. We are blessed with just a beautiful environment here for people to enjoy. And of course, we're right at the foot of Katahdin, which is the northern terminus of the Appalachian Trail. So definitely a destination for people from all over the world, really, which was pretty special. So I'm super happy to be here today. I love to talk about ELOs, ask my family. They get to hear about it all the time, of exciting things that are happening. So yeah, thank you for everyone for being here today.
Thanks so much, Marco. We're going to turn to Andy Shaw from Greenville.
Is my sound working, everybody?
Yes, it is.
Fabulous, because I failed at that when I first signed on here with the other panelists, and it was embarrassing. But at any rate, I'm Andy Shaw, and I am proudly the Extended Learning's Opportunity Coordinator in Greenville, and I also serve the Jackman School as well. Jackman is not a part of the Work 6 grant per se, but we do share a superintendent between Greenville and Jackman. And we all felt unanimously, the managers of the grant, the superintendent, the Jackman School, that I could do this job between the two schools and do it right. So at any rate, my first couple of weeks into the job, the superintendent pulled me aside and she said, "So, how's your new job? What's it like?" Previously, I'd been the phys ed and health teacher here for about 4 years, and prior to that, had some administrative experience. I was athletic director, I was assistant principal at one point in the Dover Foxcroft school system, and then before that, I was phys ed, health, AD in Greenville for another stint. So I have 2 chapters in the Greenville school. But at any rate, she said, "So Andy, how's the new job going?" And I said, "Well, to break it down to brass tacks, I get to go around town and talk to people all day. And she was like, you're perfect for that. Um, so anyway, a little self-deprecation there, but uh, honestly, the Greenville community is, experiencing some difficulties, some changes that have to do with, declining enrollment, not a lot to offer in the way of, you know, career level opportunities outside of healthcare or education or, entrepreneurialism. Um, and, just like most of the region, when the paper mill in Millinocket shut down and all the green trucks went away, we had to redefine. And so, the school right now is around 150 students K through 12. A few years ago, administration sent out a um, questionnaire to the community saying, you know, do you want to move ahead as a K through 12 school model, or would you like to be, K through 8? And resoundingly, the responses from that, questionnaire came back, no, we want to stay the way we are. And that's a good thing because as a parent here, I have two kids in the school who are just coming into high school, and I would not want to live here and have them, commute 30 miles away for school and sporting events and all those types of things. So, um, there is an element in the community that wants to lower their taxes and, wants to cut where they can from the municipal budget. Um, and it's really, my job, the way I've viewed it here, has always been one of PR and one of exposing what the school can do for kids to the community. And when I took this role over, what I found was that, and excuse me, but Greenville is a bit like Mayberry, if everybody remembers Andy Griffith. Um, everybody here knows everybody, and I've been here 10 years, and I might as well have been born here, because everybody knows me, and I know everybody, and everybody knows everybody's business, and so on, and everybody knows everybody's connections. And so once people found out that, Andy Shaw was doing this program,
Sorry, everyone. It looks like Andy froze up. So I'm sorry that he didn't quite get to finish his session. We'll try to get him back on. So I think what we'll do is we will move to Deb Rountree from the Katahdin Higher Ed Center, and we will hope that Andy's connection comes back. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I was just checking the time to see if it was still morning or afternoon. I was looking at Andy's slide that he just had with him ice fishing and in the Greenville area, and maybe that's why he froze. But anyway, my name is Deb Rountree, and I am the Executive Director of Rural Development Initiatives for Eastern Maine Community College and the University of Maine System up here at the Katahdin Higher Education Center. I've been in this work for 30 years in the region. Like Andy mentioned, a lot of the region here suffered when the Great Northern Paper Companies started to downsize back in the 80s. And our organization was able to be part of the retraining and workforce development over the last 20 or more years. And that's what I consider my specialty. Our role in this incredible work that's happening with this Work 6 grant in this region and working with all the schools is somewhat different because we're able to bring some other opportunities to this project. So I'm going to share a little bit about that in the slides as we go through the information that I'm going to share today. Some of the issues that we have in the Katahdin region here have been the number of youth in the community that aren't engaged in workforce or that do not have a plan to go to college. So I really see our role as being able to help highlight what the ELO coordinators are working with the school systems, as well as making many of the resources that we have with employers in the region and being able to connect students and teachers with employers that we are working with in the region. There are some incredible opportunities, coming up in the pipeline with some new investments and new work opportunities on both of the former mill sites in Millinocket and East Millinocket. You may have heard some of the conversations happening statewide around, Great Northern Salmon looking to build on the former Millinocket mill site, as well as Homegrown Fuels, who is another invested partner that's looking to come to the site in East Millinocket. So some of the exciting opportunities that we've been able to bring to the table thus far, I've been involved in this project for a bit over a year, I guess a year and a few months, and trying to bring all of the connections that we have in our pocket to be able to provide additional resources for this program, such as creating short-term micro-credentials that some of the students might be able to earn while they're in high school. This slide is sharing a bit of some photos from an exciting opportunity that we had to be able to provide a free, at no cost, 16-hour wilderness first aid program for a few teachers in the high schools, as well as students that were able to come and earn this 3-year credential through Eastern Maine Community College and our partners at Wilderness Medical Associates. The next slide is going to highlight another opportunity that we had to be able to bring to the region here recently. In late April, we were able to provide a hands-on day of learning with the new simulation lab, a mobile sim lab that came from Eastern Maine Community College in Bangor up to the Katahdin region to share what it's like to be an EMT or someone that works in that field, and to create opportunities for students to be able to be paired with 2 phenomenal EMS students that are students at Eastern Maine, to work with high school students to have a chance to try the simulation equipment that's in this new simulation lab. That was a very exciting day that students came from Stearns High School particularly to share in being able to provide some of these opportunities and learn more about the EMS field and learn more about what it's like to work as an EMT in the region for that day. The next event that we had participated in this year, and we've been able to participate in this exciting event since its inception about 5 or 6 years ago. We work with the local schools to create a high school aspirations career day. This year it was at Stearns High School in Millinocket. We had 5 or 6 high schools that brought students here for the day, and they were able to connect with employers on the site. In one of these photos, you'll see our table. The other photo is a great opportunity that students had to be able to participate with journalists Mike Whitaker from WABI News here in Bangor, where he was demonstrating news broadcasting, as well as the simulation opportunity, the use of using drones. So that was a very popular table for some of the youth to learn more about that field. Really exciting day in the region. These are just some examples of some of the flyers that we put together to help create these pathways for students. The programs that we are able to bring to the table are at no cost to local high school students. We also have had the opportunity to work in the field of outdoor recreation, industry, and hospitality, such as New England Outdoor Center, as well as some other employers in the region, and how this work leads into the opportunity to be able to create a different mindset and provide extended learning opportunities for youth in the region that might want to stay and live and work in the region, and how they can earn credentials that would equip them to be able to work at places like the New England Outdoor Center or our day at Johnson Outdoors in Old Town, which we attended in April. That was very exciting. We had the chance to bring several of the school's students to Johnson Outdoors, which is located in Old Town, to learn more about everything from marketing to building the lovely canoes and kayaks there, and have a chance to meet with some of the research that's being done in that facility as well. Just, incredible opportunities for youth to be able to connect and learn hands-on programs that employers might be able to take them on as an ELO student in the region. And I think that wraps up my portion at this point of this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Deb. That was great. I would like to invite Andy, if you want to come back on, Andy, for like a minute and wrap up. We're sorry we lost your internet there, but if you just want to take one more minute to wrap up your part of the presentation, please do.
Sure.
Glad you made it back.
They said when I couldn't figure out the audio at the beginning of the panel discussion and or the group meeting before this, I said, if you don't behave, we're going to gong you. You're off. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, internet hiccup. Sorry, everyone. So to summarize what I was saying, trying to get to, essentially, the Greenville School would not be able to offer this program without the assistance of the Work 6 grant. And the crucial link that this is providing between students, employers, community members, exposure to the community is really ideal for gaining good positive traction with public relations, with some of those harder to reach community members. And I'll talk more about that later on. But, with limited budgets and a small school, you don't get programs like this without some assistance. And now people are seeing the value of it, both students and teachers and community members alike.
Thanks so much, Andy. That's so important to hear and to understand in our communities. So thank you for sharing that. So all our panelists are going to come back on screen, and we are going to spend some time in a discussion amongst ourselves here. And I want to pick up on what Andy was just talking about and ask all of you about that. So I'm very interested to learn and understand, and love to hear you all share how this work has changed your relationship to the community and your school's connection to the community. Anyone want to take that first? Carrie?
Sure. I think for us, we've seen a huge culture shift in our understanding of what a partnership can look like with the community. This is no longer parents coming in just for parent-teacher conferences or things like that. I think we now understand that in order for our students to really understand how they can fit into our communities as wage earners living these happy, productive lives, the community really has to step up and be able to say, look, here's an example of how you can do that. This is something you could be interested in. I think our students live in this really noisy world where they're not sure where to get really good, reliable information. There's a lot of noise on social media. I think they're very untrusting of resources. in a lot of ways. And so when students can have an experience with a person they trust from their community and can see what they're doing, and can experience something they like or maybe don't like, I think that feels very genuine and authentic to them. And so I think we're starting to see whole families and community members understand the challenges students are facing and are coming to the table around that.
Thanks, Carrie. Anyone else want to jump in?
Hi, Amy, I will. So, in our perspective, one of the things that really strikes me about this opportunity is the incredible value of the connections between the schools and the strengths of relationships we have with employers in the region. I think some of the hardest parts to this opportunity is helping employers understand the value that not all of the youth today are looking to go off to a 2-year or 4-year college. Some are looking to gain a credential before they even graduate high school so that it prepares them for the workforce. And also, and I know directly here in the Katahdin region, we have a high number of young people that are not in the workforce. So how can we use this information and these opportunities to change that so that our younger population that aren't in the workforce, we can help them provide pathways to new employers that are looking to come to the region.
Great addition, Deb. Thank you. Yeah, and another piece of this question, in addition to how has it changed your relationship, is how do you actually build those relationships? And Kelly, if you don't mind me calling on you, I know that you have you've created some pretty creative connections with people in the community where there maybe isn't a business that you can just connect a student to readily for a variety of reasons, but you have found some other ways to build those relationships and provide those opportunities for students. Would you mind speaking to a couple of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so obviously we are a smaller area. We have, our famous Richardsons here in the area and Alice's Family Market. That's pretty much what we have here. So we are extremely limited, and kids kind of see that as their only options when they're here. And that's not what we want them to see, even as, parents. So my daughter was kind of my test subject for this. She wanted to be an esthetician, and estheticians are hard to even find in this area. So I kind of reached out to Amy and was like, can I have this, can I be approved for these weird mannequin heads, and have her kind of test different facials and makeup techniques, different things that I knew she would do within the esthetician world. And then Chelsea, when she was working with Stearns, she was awesome to build the connection between Elizabeth and I through Abby's Lounge in Millinocket, and I was able to actually book a session. And Mackenzie was able to follow me there so she could get some one-on-one time with that person and get all the questions answered that she wanted, and was able to bring all of that knowledge back here into the classroom and able to kind of use it on the mannequins and figure out, this is kind of how I should be doing all of this stuff. And it's going to allow her to take that when she goes to Aveda in June. Another one is the whole dental situation. I have a dental simulator that I had a student who was interested, but with HIPAA violations and everything, it's hard to get them into programs also. And where we are, it's quite a distance to even get them into a place where students can drive and get there, and I can't always take the day off to drive them there. So I kind of reached out to Amy again for this situation, and we did have the healthcare boot camp, which taught us quite a few things of what we can do with that simulator, which was awesome. But it kind of creates an opportunity for her to use those here in the classroom, and she can teach other kids. And it's really I don't know. I'm trying to build the classroom up so kids have opportunities here within the classroom. But if we can get them out of the classroom also, I definitely want to do that. But community members, I have some of them willing to come in and actually teach lessons for cosmetology and nail techs and estheticians. And we're actually working on building a salon. You can kind of see it. The glow up room behind me is what the girls named it. So we are working on that. So hopefully in the fall of the next school year, that's going to be up and running, and we'll have community members able to come in and actually get some of those services done. So.
Thanks, Kelly. So we're hearing really a lot of creativity. I mean, Kelly's sharing, one of the little stories out of many that we've been hearing. So really having that, having these programs sort of embedded in the school, from what I've followed from all of you, really gives you the opportunity to be creative, to respond to the students' interests and needs. And that does make me bring me to another question, which is about the systems in the schools. So as Korah mentioned in her overview, a lot of these, the idea with these programs is for them to be part of a systems change in the school, so that it's not just sort of this thing over in the corner that a couple of kids might do, or that some kids might do. So I'd love to hear some of you speak to the kinds of work that you're doing in your school around those kinds of systems changes, like what kind of integration has been happening. And I know some schools have also started to either change or integrate, some of the existing programs that had been in there, like work study type programs or school to work programs, really wrapping them in, making them more cohesive and wrapping them into the ELO. So does anyone want to jump on that first?
Greenville has always been fairly experiential in its approach to learning. We're on the frontier up here, as are all the other towns that surround the North Maine woods, and we take advantage of the Appalachian Mountain Club, and we take advantage of the lake, and we take advantage of the cruise boat that goes up and down the lake. So we haven't really per se changed or innovated a whole lot as far as the student perspective goes, because I've done 3 trips outside the school with an average of 15 high schoolers in the past month. And they're used to that. This morning before this, I drive the bus also in Greenville, man of many hats, as you have to be in a small place. But I drove the third grade class up to a local observatory that's kind of stuck out in the woods that this neat man with means built on his own, so he could have like this I would say university level telescope in the Moosehead region, and the kids get to go up there and mess with that today. So that wasn't so much a system change. The system change, I think, up here was the outreach and I guess the interactions now and the integration between the community and the school and the accessibility now. And so people can write to me and say, do you have anybody that has any horticultural expertise or interest or anything like that? And bam, the local nursery has an employee, or at least somebody who is paired up well, to get some exposure to that. I looked in the Q&A slides for a second there, and somebody asked what the goal would be. So the goal, how do you know when you've accomplished something? Well, when the grant is over, will the school continue to find a way to fund the position? And that's also somebody asked what are the biggest accomplishments. That would be the biggest accomplishment, is to have the program sort of so naturalized within the curriculum that we have a chance to keep it going.
Thanks, Andy. Anyone else want to jump on that one?
Yeah, I can jump in, Amy. I think similar to what Andy is talking about, our students are also exposed to experiential education kind of throughout their time in the district. I think for us, in terms of school systems and infrastructure, we've created a new position. The ELO position is new, and it is that primary contact for the community. And so when students do have questions about where can I go for such and such, there is a point person who can do that. And that enables us to kind of consolidate who the community contacts when they need something. So having that one point person has made a huge difference in terms of broadening our overall network within various industry sectors in our region. And then I would say, there's the network that's community facing, and then internally we've also we've added a position to our student services team, and so the ELO is also now on the student services team and really sits kind of at an intersection between social work, between guidance, between our youth mentoring program, between our JMG program. And so I am often, as the ELO person, receiving referrals from social workers who know that an ELO experience might be a way to help retain a student who's thinking about dropping out. I can work with our JMG coordinator or JMG specialist who's teaching classes, and she will say, well, so-and-so has this huge interest in criminal justice. How can we connect them with someone in the community? And so we have found that by having that point person, both internally and externally, around workforce development has made a huge difference for the school and our students.
Thanks, Carrie. Does anyone else want? Oh, go ahead, Korah.
Just in addition, in regard to the systems, at Telstar, they also have the Local Ecology and Aspirations pathway, which has several courses. The environmental policy class, the teacher won the Maine Environmental Education of the Year award this year, and those students will be presenting tomorrow at the Maine Forest Collaborative Cohort Day, their project. And up in Greenville, we did host the last couple of years a Field and Forest Day for all of the middle school students to explore natural resource careers. In Millinocket, the Millinocket region, we're working on community conversations around collaboration and potential connection between the three districts that are up there. So that's been a much broader conversation outside of the school as well as in the school. And at Katahdin this year, we've done extensive work with the elementary around curriculum, but this year we'll be working with them with their middle school teachers to develop out some integrated units for middle school. So really dropping into the middle school and the elementary to make sure that teachers have the tools that they need also to expose students to career opportunities.
Great, thanks, Korah. Carrie, you mentioned something that, oh, Margo, did you want to say something?
I was just going to echo what Carrie was saying about having the ELO coordinator be the point person. That's what I have found here, is that when a student is like they've been signing up for their classes, of course, for next year, and they go through our school counselor to sign up for their classes, and they're expressing interest. And so one piece that I'm seeing is that there's a shift of what classes do you have to take to more like, what are you interested in? And so then they're expressing that. And then I'm really glad that our school counselor is encouraging them to come and talk to me and let's see what we can do. So then we're exploring, I'm exploring with the student, like, what are your interests? What are your goals? And so that leads into a whole conversation. And then it's kind of like, what do we have here right at Stearns? So we have a couple students right now who are ELO students that are connected with teachers right here at Stearns and also our food services coordinator. So we have a student that is working as a kitchen assistant down in our cafeteria. We also have a student who's being mentored by our music teacher, and these have had wonderful outcomes. So I also see the ELO coordinator as being like you were saying, Carrie, being the point person for the community to reach out to. So when we had our career fair, I had wonderful conversations with people from the community, from businesses saying, we really want to have the youth come in. Katahdin Federal Credit Union came right up to me and said, we used to have this awesome program. We want to bring it back. Let's bring it back. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was so exciting to hear that. And so we're working to develop that again. So what a wonderful opportunity for students to go and have a summer internship at the credit union, which could lead, as we all know, into really a full, rich career in banking and financial services. So lots of things happening. So I definitely see a shift in sort of how we're thinking about how students move through high school, in not just we're checking the boxes of what they need for their requirements to graduate, but what are you interested in? And also like they need to do community service. So how can we tailor those community service hours to something that you might be interested in, or that is actually supporting you in your future goals? So I just really think there's just so much value in this program, and I'm in high hopes that it can continue because the students are absolutely wanting to take advantage of this for sure. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Margo. Well, and then another question related to the student experience is how is this program accessible and available to all students? You are all clearly serving students who might be at risk of not graduating and dropping out of school, all the way to kids who have always known they want to go to college, they're very academically driven. How does this program serve kids across that whole spectrum? Go ahead, Andy.
So from a functional standpoint, the way that I do my work is actually leveraging the previous phys ed and health teacher role that I had in the school, which again is K to 12. So, I saw every kid that goes to school in Greenville at least once a week, if not 2 or 3 times, leading into this job. So I had established relationships with all these kids, and I know them very well, and I know the families. And so, what I do is I hear from teachers who say, this guy really he needs somebody to meet with him and talk about what his aspirations might want to be. And so I sit down and talk to him, and we go through some stuff, and you get a lot of, well, I don't know, oh, I guess I'll follow, what my parents did, or I don't really know if I want to go in the military maybe or something or whatever. And I've sat with some seniors this year who have switched directions a half a dozen times in the last 3 months. They had these plans, now they're these plans, now they're these plans, which clearly points out that they don't know. And, it must be kind of scary. And I remember this feeling, and I imagine most of the attendees out there do as well, that when I got to be 18 and got kicked out of public school, and I mean kicked out as in graduated, like you're on your own now, bye. I really didn't have a clue, so I sit down with them. I say, what is it you want to do? Well, I want to learn HVAC. Okay, pick up the phone, call the person that is responsible for most of the area's heat and cooling and air, and say, I've got a young man here who is very interested in your line of work. Would you put him in a van for a day? Yeah, that'd be great. Who is it? And then the conversation goes from there. And, now that 18-year-old student has an opportunity to make up his mind whether he wants to get trained through this company to become a furnace technician, or does he want to go to a 2-year college and learn it that way, which will be a little bit quicker, but a little bit more expensive for him. That's his choice now. And that transpired since January. So, it's having those relationships with the kids and then being willing to go out and meet employers cold. And, I did that the other day. Somebody directed me toward an ad that was posted on a local site, and it said, looking for I just went to the employer and introduced myself and told him what I did. It was somebody in town who I hadn't previously known, and that was fine. He explained some reservations about having a student worker. It hadn't worked out well in the past. And I said, well, that's fine too. If I find the right person, would that, suit you? Yeah, I'll give it a shot, So just having those conversations and be willing to take risks, in meeting people and students being willing to put themselves out there. Also want to add that our grant covers us to work with students from 14 to 24 through the federal government, but that doesn't limit us. So I've had adults in the area come to me and say, really want to retire. I want to do something. I'm working out of town. I have been for 20 years. I want something, here that I can do as an additional thing that I don't have to travel out of town anymore. And I can retire and then I can go to work as this. I've had those people, I've had those conversations. I've had recent postgraduates, 18, 19, 20 years old, who are just hanging around town and don't know what's available. And I've worked with them through the adult ed office. So it's really, all our programs are different. We've all had the freedom to set them up the way that we want, and that makes the most sense for our community and our constituents, employers and students and schools. So mine is very, point to point. So go to the student, talk to the parents, figure it out. How, I want to see what occupational therapy is all about. Pick up the phone, get on the education coordinator with Northern Light Health, and find somebody that will take them on.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. I think the primary thing you're highlighting is that this is really about relationships, and that each of you have the opportunity to develop individual relationships with your students to find out what their needs are. And then you have those other connections to the businesses, to the post-secondary opportunities, to the academic departments in your schools, to other partners in the community, that you're kind of working in that space to make sure that students get some support in figuring out what that trajectory is going to be for them. I do also want to ask about barriers to participation, and what that has looked like, and how you're able to help students overcome some of those barriers.
Amy, I'd like to jump in on that question. So one of the things I was thinking about in the conversations we've been having here is some of the struggles here, particularly in the Katahdin region, where after the paper industry, closed down and there's been a decline in the economy over the past 20 years, how a lot of the youth in high school have really become non-connected to the workforce. They don't realize that there are opportunities for work right here in this region. And some of the work that we've been doing around the Aspirations programs with the schools, it's really exciting to hear that we have these 2 new businesses, possibly a third, that are looking to come here, and how we can connect those employers with youth, and how youth can actually see opportunities beginning to develop in this community to stay here and live here. I'm really excited about the work that's happening with Great Northern Salmon in the region, and as they start their construction, and being able to connect local youth to see that transformation, because over the last 20 years in this region, they've seen such a decline, and the youth that are here living now are living in poverty, unlike, some of the past. So I think really having a chance to be able to change the mindset of youth, especially in families in which they may be being raised by other family members, instead of their parents, but having to provide really from the ground up, and then opportunities to see things redevelop in a region that had been in decline for so long. That to me really excites me about this opportunity, specifically in the 3 schools that we work with here in the Katahdin region.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone else want to jump in on that one?
Can I piggyback off of that? Because I really do think the last two questions are very much tied together in some ways. I think this program is for any student. And I think what we're experiencing here is that we're seeing students being able to break the cycle of poverty by earning credentials while they're in high school and connecting with employment opportunities that they haven't seen modeled at home. And so I think some of the barriers that we encounter, students don't have a driver's license. If you're in a rural area, you need to have a driver's license and a vehicle to get to work. Students are, growing up in homes or sometimes without homes where there is no family work history. And so there's a lot of lack of confidence around how to be an entry-level employee. How do you dress? What is the work etiquette? What does work ethic look like and mean? And so I think this ELO program is able to take students who do have those barriers and be able to give them some guidance, support. The Bethel Area Business Association has very generously given us 10 driver's ed scholarships per year for our most needy students to ensure that those students do have access to a permit and then a license so that they can get to work. Either as older students or after graduation. We have a giving closet with lots of work-ready clothes for students who we can kind of go shopping for free. The grant money and participant services has certainly allowed us to buy scrubs for our CNA students. And then our students are required to do a job shadow in junior year. And so they have to have a few experiences with being in a work setting, so that they can gain some confidence in those areas. And so I love the idea that students are able to reimagine what their lives can be by having these touch points with community members. And then we have students on the other end of the spectrum who are earning, real estate licenses because they're just fantastic overachievers and have taken every AP class and, are working through some of their own barriers, which are like not having a lot of advanced level courses here and are seeing ELO as a way to really extend and expand the education that they want for themselves prior to going to a four-year college. So trying to maybe connect those two questions a little bit, Amy.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, a related question, this is a little bit different, but I'm going to shift to some of the audience questions, shift over to those, but this is somewhat related to everything you all have been talking about, which is one person's wondering if you're seeing improved student engagement in sort of the regular classroom activities, the non-ELO classes. And if you're seeing, students who maybe weren't doing that well in other classes or maybe weren't very engaged, has this changed that for them?
I can compare and contrast that quickly. I have one young lady who's a junior, and she had truancy issues most of her high school career. So where it wasn't, an absence, it was a tardy. And her, for lack of a better word, case manager in the school asked me if I could talk to her, and I sat down and I said, do you have any ideas about what you might want to be? And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, do you like to work with little kids? And she said, yeah, I did that in the pre-K classroom here in the school. I said, great, because the local daycare is looking for help. Okay. So she took CPR first aid. She went through this 8-hour training course online that the state of Maine requires for daycare workers. She did a number of other steps to be able to be employed, and she worked 1 hour in 4 weeks at the place. So she was not an example of somebody who this inspired them to improve. However, I have another student who, and the panel's heard me tell this a few times, we needed a community connection with the local newspaper that comes out bi-weekly. And we talked as a staff, and I met with some people in high school and said, who's our best writer? And it was a 14-year-old, 15-year-old freshman girl. And they said, she's a fantastic writer and she likes to do it. And so after this newspaper being in press for the last 3 or 4 years and being sort of the local voice and not having a connection to the school through like other than, oh, this event, here was the spring play or whatever, not having a direct contributor, this young lady said, oh, I'd love that job. And it's an unpaid internship, and she has a full page in the local paper now, and has for a couple of months. And the community response to that, particularly from elderly people who still like to buy their papers and read their news in print, has been overwhelming. And this young lady is inspired now to start to make her own stories and try to investigate things and interview people. And so she's learning all these different dimensions of journalism and putting them into product. And that engagement has been fantastic.
Thanks, Andy. Anyone else want to add to that before we jump to the next question?
I will, Amy. We had one student earlier this year, he's a junior, and his behavior was pretty awful when you go on field trips, especially. And he was an ELO with business was the big thing. And I have my own little side business and kind of know that who I would want to deal with if I was dealing with a business person was the big thing. So him and I actually had, a side conversation with, that behavior. If I were to see you out on the street, that is not who I'd want to deal with and whatnot. And ever since we had that conversation at the beginning of the year, he really took that to heart and he stepped up his game. And because of that, he has showed up to every class with a positive mindset. He's being positive for his peers. His business that he has developed he's gotten over $1,000 revenue, and, community members have given him, free stuff for his lawn care business and whatnot. So I do think that the ELO does help when we can have those one-on-one discussions when we see different disruptions happening in the classroom and everything.
Thanks, Kelly. So I just want to shift to another question that came from participants that's kind of more about how the schools have responded to this. It says, did you experience any pushback or standoffishness from the schools first before getting your program off the ground? Anybody?
I'm going to say yes. I received a lot in the beginning. Our school is very traditional and they don't like new things all the time. And it's a little scary when you put something new into a school. You don't know if it's going to take away from your class, which then affects what you could teach the next year. But it's the more that, especially working with Shayna Weber, some of the JMG webinars that we have, and kind of building ELO also into the classrooms has kind of been eye-opening for the teachers that you can take ELO and make it work within classrooms. So it started off rough, but it is a lot better now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's a question coming in too, and it's related to what you just said, Kelly. Do students earn high school credits for ELOs?
Our students personally only earn elective credits, because if we were to do it based off core credits, we would really have to dig into the standards and make sure it correlates with everything they need for math or science. So we just do elective credits here at Katahdin.
Others?
Yeah, we at Telstar, students can earn both core credit. So for example, I had 2 students who worked earning their level 1 ski instructor certification, who worked with the PE teacher to align those standards, and they earned PE credit for that ELO piece. We have a number of students who, like Kelly mentions, earn elective credits. And then we have students who are in credentialing type courses. It might be an EMT course, for example, who would earn math, science, and English and health credit, similar to what our students at the CTE schools would earn for a CNA credential. And so our department chairs have done some curricular alignment depending on, we're a small school, so this is usually kid by kid basis. And once we have a student go through a program like that, then we can kind of lean back into those alignments for future ELOs. So we take it student by student. Majority of students earn elective credits, but we do have students who can earn core credit.
Korah, do you want to add anything to that, since you are connected to a lot of ELO schools, both within our work regions and Down East region and even others? So
Yeah, across, I think we have 17 schools that are participating in this work right now, and all of them offer elective credit. Some of them offer traditional credit, core academic credit, but that usually is an evolution. So like Kelly was saying, when a program that is new and it comes to the school, it can be nerve-wracking for teachers to find their place in that. And if you were to give academic credit right away, that becomes even more threatening for the sort of the institution. And so we like to develop a good track record in schools with elective credits, and then slowly, just like Carrie said, case by case basis, bring on those academic credits, because we do want to make sure that the rigor of those courses is on par with a traditional course if a student were to take that. But we also want to make sure that that it's accessible.
thank you. I also want to ask, this is another one that came in through the Q&A, what the outlook for the next few years for ELO programming is in the schools. And I do want to hear from the ELO coordinators, but also Korah, I would like, just again, because you have exposure to a large number of schools, or direct connection, I should say, to a large number of these schools. Do you want to start the answer to that question, and maybe others can jump in from their school's perspective?
Yeah, sure. So in the Work 5, we had 4 districts participating with 5 high schools, so 5 ELO coordinators. All of those are in the budget in each of the districts, in the local budget, not being funded by grant funds moving forward. One of the districts had 2 high schools, and they've gone down to 1 ELO coordinator, so we've lost 1 position, but the students have not lost access to that program. We hope for the same outcomes in the Work 6 region, and again, the duration of the grant being 3 years is important to be able to build the framework for this work. And to put the school in a position where they can't not have an ELO coordinator. The students are really asking for that, and the families are asking for that, the businesses are asking for that. So it becomes a new expectation. In Washington County, we have much less money, and so they're receiving a very small stipend, school counselors and folks that are working in schools. And so the job that we need to do in Washington County is to bring additional grant funding in, and to explore that model. So we're exploring. I know that there was a question from Camp Susan Curtis around nonprofit organizations. So we're exploring some community-based organization models where they can hold some of the ELO programming as well. So we're being creative in each of the regions and trying to think about what's the best sustainability model for that region and for the schools within that region. But we do fully believe that this is a shift in education. So one of the biggest shifts that we have seen in public education in rural places in the 30 years that I have been in education. So it is putting students into an active role versus a passive role, and that is changing the conversation amongst families, community members, and teachers as well.
Thanks, Korah.
It's fascinating to me that we've come full circle because public school education in this country began with local employers grooming, students in school to be workers when they became of age. And if you take a history of education course, that's sort of how the whole thing evolved, and that's why we had so many different rural schools to start out with. Because they needed to teach those kids how to be good workers. And then I feel like there was a huge disconnect between local employers and schools for a long period of time. It was almost like local employers didn't want to be taxed so much to pay for schools. They weren't getting anything, back. And now employers are starting to see the value again, at least in Greenville, of investing in the kids in the school. And, I mean, employers in Greenville are looking for people who can work for them. And we're a source now. So
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, I just want to, we're getting on time here, and there are lots of things that we haven't talked about. This is such a rich program, and there's so much to it that we could easily, I think we only got through maybe half of our panel questions. But I do just want to ask you all to touch on one thing before we do our total final wrap up, which is just about the group ELO experiences. I know there have been several that have just been so successful in each of the regions, and the fact that you can do them as a region has also seemed to make a really big difference. It's not just one school saying, hey, can we come visit your whatever? But it's, no, there's 5 schools. Can we organize this day? And then can we do it again next year and the year after and the year after, setting up as a system. So, and I will also mention that in the resources that come in after the webinar that goes out to the registrants, will also include a couple links to some of the TV stories that have been shared on some of those group ELOs, which are fantastic. But anyway, does anybody want to say anything about the group ELOs? Again, in a minute or two, just since Margo?
Yeah, I'll chime in. The group ELOs have been wonderful. It just really provides this like low stress environment because sometimes they go with their friends and things like that. Just for exploration. And it's really about, this program is all about exploration. And so these students get to go and experience these industries and these career or these job environments that they might not even have known existed. And so it's really entry level type experiences. It might be a tour. The medical boot camp, they were actually, taking part in some hands-on activities. They absolutely loved that and got so much from it, and were able to see many different types of jobs within the medical field all in one day. They were just on the way home talking about it. It was really, really wonderful to sort of listen from the front of the van, and just building that repertoire for themselves of what's out there. So really, it's been quite phenomenal, and to see what's around them, and to go there and talk to the people that are the powers that be, and to make those connections. It's been a wonderful experience. So the group experiences are key to sort of getting them interested. And then I feel like the idea after that is like, okay, now how can we build on that? If that's something that's like super of interest to them, okay, now what opportunity can we provide to them? Like what comes next? So that's really been exciting.
Great. Thank you, Margo. So with that, we'll have to wrap it up. Thank you all so much. Really appreciate your time. And thank you also to everyone who joined today. We really appreciated having you. We would love your feedback. We are going to put an evaluation link in the chat, and it will also be in the follow-up materials as those come out. So thank you. We always look to improve our webinars one after the other. And if you haven't already, you can sign up for the Northern Forest Center news digests and our e-newsletters, and you can choose different categories of things that you're interested in, as well as you can choose by geography as well. But that's a great way to keep up with what other webinars are going to be coming out, and as well as some of the stories that come out of the region through these ELO programs and other things going on in these communities. We pick up and share quite a few stories, and we would love to share that with more of you. So if you are interested in supporting Northern Forest Center, we also have a donation form on our website, and would always welcome anyone to support the work that we're doing across this region. So with that, I would like to thank everybody again. I also would like to thank the U.S. Department of Labor Workforce Opportunities for Rural Communities program, which has supported the ELO in these two regions, and we really appreciate their support. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks for your time, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.